it's interesting because all of a sudden I'm like, my perspective has changed a bit. Now I'm like, well, I don't know if I would let my kid do that. I mean, if he follows me around for the next decade, when he's 12, he's probably going to be capable of doing a 100-miler. Would I discourage him? Maybe. I don't know. Welcome to episode 3 of the Trail Currents podcast. I'm Jamil Coury.
I'm Jubilee Paige.
Welcome to the show where we take a deep dive into topics making waves in the running world. So we want to start out, do a quick update on the first 2 episodes. So we filmed those, like well over a month ago. I think the first was early January, and then the second was probably a week later. And we took some time to make sure that we were editing them properly and getting them all onto the platforms, and we've done that. And the first one went live within the last week, and the second one, I think we're just finishing the edit on the YouTube video, but it's already live on all the different podcasting platforms.
Most of the podcasting.
And we've been pretty blown away by the response. It's really cool to see people dig the show format. We're trying to do something different here, taking a deep dive into some of these topics that are hot and current at the time. And, these shows aren't planned out that far in advance. We're basically looking for what's actually going on.
Yeah, we want to know what is kind of the hot button of the sport. If you guys are interested, or you want to hear interested in a topic and you want to hear kind of a deep dive on kind of some controversial topics within ultra running, we want to know. We want some help.
We obviously have our ear to the ground, so to speak, but if you guys at any point have a topic or something that you'd like us to discuss, please feel free to reach out to us. You can find me at Jamil Coury on Twitter.
Yeah, and you can find me at Happy Jubilee on Instagram or on Twitter, but I'm not really active on Twitter.
You're not really on Twitter.
I know. Let's just be honest.
I'm slide into those DMs or something on Instagram. Something like that.
Something like that.
So again, thank you so much. And for those of you that are new to the show, if you're seeing this on YouTube for the first time, you can download this as an audio podcast. We have it currently up and running on the Apple Podcasts app, Google Play Music, and Stitcher. And we're trying to get it on Spotify.
Yeah.
I'm trying to find out the right strings to pull for that one, or the right door that opens that. The right door that opens that key, or the right key that opens that door. Either way, if we get through there, we're going to bring it to you.
Right on. You want to move on to our podcast sponsor of the week?
Yeah, let's talk about the sponsor of the week. So this week we have the Crown King Scramble 50K is the official sponsor of this episode.
Yep, brought to you by the Crown King 50K. It's hosted by Aero Viper Running, Saturday, March 24th, coming up soon.
27th annual.
Yeah, 27th annual running of this race. The runners experience a 50K that climbs from the desert floor to the mountain pines, starting on the shores of Lake Pleasant and running the road through some of Arizona's oldest mining claims in the beautiful Bradshaw Mountains. They actually end at the oldest saloon in Arizona called the Crown King Saloon, and we have a party waiting for all of the finishers there in Crown King.
God, I love this race. I've been able to run it twice and directed it a few times, and it is one of the most fun races that I've done.
It really is. It's one of the most fun finishes of my year, directing the race for the second year in a row. And it's, I think this is my third experience with Crown King, but by far one of my favorite finish lines. It's just a party, and people come up to Crown King. It's just a really unique town.
A point-to-point 50K is not a normal thing, let alone one that starts in the desert and finishes in the pine trees.
Yeah. You are climbing a mountain, and you see the profile.
They say there's just one hill.
There's just one hill.
But it's the whole race.
It's the whole race. You're climbing constantly. So, it's just a good day for a hike. But if any of the listeners are interested in experiencing this race and running through Arizona's history. If you enter the code TCP15, you'll earn 15% off the Crown King Scramble registration. It is open, I believe, until March 20th. So you have until March 20th. Enter the code TCP15 and earn 15% off of registration.
And if you get in before March 1st, you guarantee this year's finisher's jacket.
Yep.
If you enter after, you might get some leftovers from previous.
Which are still really cool.
So let's move into this week's topic, and it is a doozy. We always pick doozies here.
I know, we really do. It's something, it's fun though, because you and I have these conversations and we kind of get in this like heated back and forth, which we know that kind of makes us like, okay, this is a good topic.
We kind of pregame it a little bit. I mean, we just cracked the beers now, so
we did.
And we'll get to that in a second, but let's start, and we're going to talk about youth and ultras.
Youth.
Is there some sort of music that plays now?
I don't know. Like, it's like a dun 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 type of thing, or is it like that?
Yeah. So this was something that caught our attention recently for two reasons.
Yep.
For me, anyways. Number one, Hawaii introduced a bill to prevent anyone under the age of 18 from entering any foot race longer than a half marathon. I thought that was pretty wild that they're actually trying to legislate kids from running even half marathons or marathons. I don't know if they can even run half marathons. It might have been that they can't even do that.
Anything longer than a half marathon.
Yeah. I'm not 100% on the facts, but imagine
up to a half marathon. But like you are not, if you are 18, you cannot.
Under 18.
Under 18, you cannot run a marathon in Hawaii.
That was the bill that was introduced. So, which is that to me seems pretty crazy, but it kind of got.
I mean, it's interesting that lawmakers, period, are getting into.
Yeah, I'm curious what the story behind that bill is. Like, was there someone that complained about like a 16-year-old that ran the Honolulu Marathon?
Right.
I just can't imagine.
Did somebody get hurt? Was there an incident that we maybe are not aware of? I don't know.
Because for me, it's always been, well, if a minor wants to do something with parents' permission,
right, then
they can do it. But this is obviously, someone's trying to get in the way of that kind of status quo. So it's interesting. And then the second thing that happened is I saw someone point out on a Facebook post that a 14-year-old was attempting the Rocky Raccoon 100 miler. And I couldn't find the original post, but something to the effect of that we as the ultra running community should stop praising that kind of activity and that it's irresponsible. So, and I think that incited a lot of emotion and back and forth, the wonderful thing that is Facebook, the Facebook arguments, where we all win. And,
everybody has an opinion.
There's no losers and only winners, except no. So, yeah, we wanted to dive deeper.
I mean, this is not a novelty in our sport. Like, this is not something that, like, all of a sudden a teenager is coming into ultra running. I mean, there's kids who have run ultras for years well under the age of 18.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, my own experience, I was not a minor when I started doing this.
No, but your brothers were.
But I was 20 years old when I ran my first ultra. I'm 33 now, so and I'm still doing it. I didn't phase out or whatever. So, I have 13 years experience, but when I ran my first ultra, my two younger brothers ran as well, and they were 17? Either 15 and 17 or 16 and 18, somewhere right around there. So I think, actually, I think they were probably 15 and 17, something like that. Pretty close to that. So they were teenagers. They were in high school. I was in college. And so that's where my experience with this starts is I was always, one of the youngest out there. Even in my early 20s, there wasn't a lot of younger people out there doing this kind of stuff. So that's where my background with this starts, and I'm going to go into some other stuff too. But there's other young ultra runners, especially here in Arizona. The main one that comes to mind is James Benet, and that name might not ring a bell for a lot of people. If you were in the scene 10 years ago, you probably would know him because he was 18, 19 years old running the Western States 100. Mm-hmm. He was a North Face sponsored athlete. Mm-hmm. Stepped away from the sport for a couple years, and since he's come back, he's finished the Hard Rock 100. He won the Born to Run 100-miler. He's been doing a little bit less lately because he has kids of his own now. But he started when he was really young. I think when he was 10 or 11, he ran
Crown King.
Yeah, we're going to pull that up.
When he was really young.
The oldest result on ultra sign up for him is from 1996 when he was 10 years old.
Yeah.
And he ran 53 miles at the Across the Years 24-hour. And, well, for me, my first ultra was
a fixed time.
And that's kind of the perfect venue for someone under the age of 18 to get their feet wet in ultra running. Because the beauty of it is there's no fixed distance that you have to do.
Nope.
Your parent or guardian, even if they're not a runner, they can be there to support you, to monitor you, to see your condition every mile or less, because most of these are usually a mile or less. Which is a great thing. I think that's
they can
awesome.
Crew you, they can run with you.
They can enter the race as well, and they can do every other lap if they're not as much of a runner as you are.
Yeah.
And so it's different than
you have 24 hours if you even just want to run the first 50K distance. You have 24 hours to do it.
So, and then in James, a little bit more of his history, the next year, it looks like he ran 84 miles in 24 hours. But I'd imagine he was doing a lot of running and hiking with his dad, who was an ultra runner, Paul Benet. He's a legendary runner here in Arizona, and he's still at it. He just finished Black Canyon 100K, didn't he?
I think so, yeah.
So he's signed up for Crown King again this year.
Yeah.
And so his experience running with his dad is like, okay, James has done 53 miles, 84 miles in 24 hours. So at age 11, he enters the Crown King Scramble 50K, 1998, and he finishes in 5 hours, 9 minutes, 19th place. Nothing crazy, but I mean, that's pretty impressive for an 11-year-old
absolutely
to be doing the race that we were just talking about. You know, he ran that back in the day. So that's kind of a little introduction. But James, I think, is someone who was doing it right. He was alongside his dad. He has a lot of results. It's kind of tapered off, and I mean, we'd have to talk to James to see, you know, his thoughts on maybe why he hasn't raced as much lately. He just did the Pemberton Trail 25K 2 weeks ago, got fourth, but he hasn't had a ton of results. I think mostly it's because just of his family and stuff. Like he's a busy guy. He's a dad, and you know, I know about that as well. So he's signed up for Hard Rock again this year, so he got in again. So that's awesome.
But as a kid, he kind of there was a natural progression in his miles.
Definitely, and he was in the sport, and he did become competitive over time, but it wasn't from the get-go. He kind of eased his way into it. So that's James Benet.
Yeah.
That's some of his experience. And but yeah, there's some other young ultra runners as well. So, you know, it kind of, the topic comes up with us because, you know, we organize events and we have youth running our events, and we do allow it, but maybe, I don't know, maybe we're not considering changing that policy anytime soon, because I like the idea of the parents being involved in the decision with their children. I think they should, when you have a James Benet out there, I don't know that I should be the one to say you can't do that.
I mean, it's really exciting. You know, you see kids having kind of a fire or a passion for running, and not only just running, but running really long distance. And so that's really exciting to see. But
I mean, I've had such a positive impact from the sport, and it's cool to see that rubbing off on the youth. It's great to see. I mean, I was involved in hiking and backpacking when I was in my teens, and strapping on a 60-pound pack, that's tough work. And we would do 7-day backpacking trips, you know? So I think kids can definitely do it in the right environment for sure.
Yeah.
And I think not every kid it's going to be the best thing for. I've seen kids come and go. There was a young man by the name of Michael Hayden that I don't know if any listeners are going to remember him, but he was running like Javelin 100 back in 2007, and he was 17 or 18 years old. something like that. And we're probably going to look him up right now on Ultra Sign Up.
Let's just be honest.
Because I'm curious. I haven't heard from him in a number of years.
2016 was his last race.
So it looks like, when he was 16 years old, he started running the Avalon Benefit 50 miler.
Mm-hmm.
And he went straight into, it looks like, a bunch of 50 milers and 50Ks right away in 2006. He went right into the Javelina 100.
And jumped right into the Javelina 100,
in 2006. So he just, out of nowhere, 50 miler, 50 miler, 50K, 50 miler, 50K, 100 miler, follows it up with a 50K. That's all in his first year in 2006. And then 2007, he's hitting it hard. He's doing an ultra every single month, pretty much of that whole year. And then after he wins the Javelina 100K, he drops off the scene.
Yep.
And doesn't have anything until 2009, and then
a couple races here and there,
but he never returns to that, that 100K, I guess. And I mean, it was
and definitely not like a 100 miler.
Well, it was actually back in the day. If you drop out of the 100 miler, you get a 100K result. So 13 hours there. It's not like that's that impressive of a performance. So he just kind of dropped off the scene, and he's done a couple things here and there, but 2016 is his last result. He did a 12 miler, and if that's even the same Michael Hayden, who knows, but he was middle of the pack there. So it's tough to say if that's really him or not, but that's kind of sad to see, because he was really caught up in wanting to like get sponsored and do all kinds of things. And I'm not sure he kind of came into the sport maybe with a longevity mentality, which not everyone does. Some people want to just come in, but for someone that young to be so competitively driven, it was sad. It was kind of sad to see him burn out so quick.
Right.
And that's, I'm worried that there are some others that might be following that sort of a path,
right,
versus maybe a James Benet mentality. So I just want to talk about this stuff and just show that there's, different ways to do it.
I mean, certainly, there's alarms raised within the community, and I think just kind of also in the general public, if like ultra running at that young of age is even, healthy, for us to encourage young kids to enter the sport and then run when they're younger than 18, 12, 13, 14 years old. What is it doing to their bodies? Are they fully understanding the repercussions of the training? And then, jumping from maybe not 50Ks, going to a 5K and then jumping into a 100 mile within the same year. Are we going to see them then quickly kind of like burn out?
Yeah, there's been some other, I think, really cool examples. Like we've seen Colby Wentland coming out.
His whole family,
doing some stuff. And I think he's still doing it.
He started when he was 12 years old.
Mark and Brandon Plate, I think it's Mark and Brandon, the Plate family.
Yeah.
They've come out all supportive, done quite a few of the events. We've also got some friends in Silverton, Ivy and Cody's kids up there.
Yeah.
So it's cool to see, for sure. And I wanted to touch on another thing. So, I was involved in a relationship, that her kids would run some of our races as well. This was several years ago. And, in particular, one of Sabrina's daughter, Tegan, when she was 8 years old, ran the Javelina 100K.
Yeah, I remember.
And so
2014.
Yeah, I'm not sure the year, but so, they were around the scene. They were seeing what we were doing and, got interested and inspired and, trained up and did some fixed time events, did some 50Ks and, walking and running, and then did 100K, but I think slept a full 8 hours in between, because it's such a long cutoff. You have like 29 hours. So she did like 3 laps, slept, do the last lap, and did it with her mom the whole way. So
I remember that.
It's still, that's a lot for an 8-year-old. And Tegan doesn't run anymore. Her interests have changed, but that was another experience that I had seeing that firsthand. And so I don't know, I've never given much thought into not allowing kids to do this, but something changed for me. And that is I now have a kid who just turned 2. And it's interesting because all of a sudden I'm like, my perspective has changed a bit. Now I'm like, well, I don't know if I would let my kid do that. Like, and I don't know yet. He's 2.
Well, I mean,
he's not. I don't know what he's going to be like at 8 or 11 or 14 or 17. If he follows me around for the next decade, when he's 12, he's probably going to be capable of doing a 100-miler. Would I discourage him? Maybe. I don't know. I'm kind of leery of it. I think I would probably encourage him for that type of a distance and that stress on the body. I would encourage him to wait until he's older. I don't know that there's a purpose in it. I think you can get fulfillment out of running by sticking to shorter distances until a certain age. I don't know that it benefits your longevity to be doing a lot of ultramarathons in your teenage years.
I mean, isn't it exciting though? Like if you have, like when you have a kid and he's of, running age and he can say, Dad, let's go out for a run. And I want to go run, 30 miles in the canyon or something like that. Wouldn't that excite you more than, or
I hope I can still run by then. No, it's exciting. But like now that I have a kid, I feel very protective of him, which it's an interesting thing.
But then maybe you have also that like fatherly pride of like, son, let's go and share this adventure.
Let's also be honest. I mean, he did his first race.
He did.
When he was 1 year old, and across the years.
He did. He clocked 3 miles, right?
4.
4. Oh.
He did 4 miles.
Crushed it.
And I think it took him about an hour per mile because he enjoyed snacks and laid in the grass and I don't know what else he did. He went and looked at the fire hydrants or something on the course. So
I mean, I think we should do that more, actually, as ultra runners. We should take time to enjoy the snacks and the hydrants of the trail. I don't know.
So I'm excited. I mean, I'm taking each phase of being a father as it comes along, and I don't know where it's going to lead, but I mean, I wouldn't be shocked if he grows up. He's going to grow up in the sport. I mean, just the other day, he grabbed a water bottle, one of my soft flask water bottles, and was like, hey, like, where's your pack, Daddy? We're going to the mountain. And I was like, dude, this kid knows it already.
He knows.
And this is crazy.
Yeah.
So he is, and there's a lot of kids now that are growing up in the ultra culture. Yeah. So I think, and they're motivated. They're hungry.
Like Maya Ray Ray. Do you think Maya Ray Ray is maybe going to start running? And
what's that?
Like Maya Ray Ray.
She runs.
I know, but is she going to get into the ultra scene here?
I don't know. I'm not sure.
Maybe we need to tweet at her.
I think, and I don't know. I don't know what her parents think about that,
Right.
But I think it's definitely a conversation, I think, between parents and their children, ultimately. The only way one way I think that we would not allow someone to run is if we see an abusive parent in any way, shape, or form, or we see the kid, like, just like any other runner, like, medically having issues out there.
Right.
I mean, there might be other instances
like
as well.
Like pulling them from a race.
Right. Yeah. Or if we heard about, the overbearing parent that's like, you better finish this race and getting super, like, overbearing even ahead of time.
And even
allow that.
Dropping your children off at a ultra race for the next 30 hours and
if someone,
allowing us to babysit your child while they're on the course running 100 miles,
they're
not there supervising. I don't want to be.
They're running the 100 and they're like, drop their 13-year-old off to run the 50-miler,
right?
Without any prior experience. Probably not going to happen.
Here, go and have fun on the trails today. I'll be back. I'm going to go get a spa, have a pedicure or something like that. No, not okay.
Probably not.
Probably not going to happen. But I mean, like, you know, at what is there a line that we draw with young kids? You know, is it okay, you know, for a 16-year-old, if they have their parents' permission to come and run the Javelin 100, you know, with their parents maybe there, maybe not.
Ideally there.
Yeah.
I think. I mean, it gets, a 17-year-old who's almost 18, it's, you know, pretty close, but still they're a minor and they're youth, and something to think about, most definitely.
But certainly not like even like a 10-year-old kid, say, you know, a 10-year-old comes and they want to run 100 miles. They have their parents' permission. Their parents are there.
They got to run with them, I think, the whole way.
Yeah. I mean, currently that's not necessarily a stipulation of our race, though. Like, it's not something that we say, hey, if you're going to have your young kid run, we also need you to register for the race and run alongside them.
But I don't know that we've had any 10-year-olds try and sign up for a 100-miler on their own. So, but yeah, I mean, Tegan's example, I think, showed that, you know, even an 8-year-old who has been doing this for a while and built their way up is capable. And I don't think there's been any long-term damage for Tegan. I mean, besides the fact that she's just changed her interest. Like, it's just... Yeah, she's...
You know, she's like, I'm over it.
Yeah, she did it for a while, but now the next thing is a more of interest right now. And who knows? Just like I did cross country, I think, in 5th grade, and then I didn't do it for 3 years, and then high school comes around, I want to do it again.
Right.
So...
but I mean, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, is there, like, do you think, though, there is, like, some kind of danger for kids to start that young and then to run from, say, age 12 to age 18? They've run for 6 years. There's maybe no longevity in the sport because, you know, they've burnt out their bodies running from like a 50K to a 100-mile within a couple years, and then just like pushing until they've just completely like, okay, I can't run anymore.
Well, there's absolutely a risk. I mean, we even see it with adults.
Yeah.
I mean, there's so many adults in the sport
burning out within
I mean, the list is endless. I mean, it's pretty much any elite that's pushing course records and pushing that like red line for 2 to 3 years, from Jeff Rose to Kyle Skaggs, Anton Krupicka, who else? Timmy Olsen, Rob Krar. I mean, a lot of these guys,
they're breaking their bodies.
A couple good years and then they can't get it back. I mean, even Dakota Jones just tweeted out yesterday talking about
he's still injured.
He said his competitive running days might be behind him at this point. He did well at Lake Sonoma last year, but I don't think he's raced since. And yeah, it's a real thing. And there are anomalies. I mean, look at Killian. I mean, he's been pushing it since he's been a kid, but he's been in the mountains doing it. And that's why I say
he was raised in the mountains.
Yeah. And I mean, that's going to be my kid too, of course.
Of course.
Except not the high altitude part, but that's why we got to get him up to Colorado.
Right.
Like ASAP.
Right now.
So, but
like they have very short careers because they're pushing that red line, and you know, it's either due to injury or it's just, you know, burnout or whatever it is, you know. And I would hate to see it in really young kids, you know, experience that same thing even before they're 18 years old.
Yeah.
You know, they're completely just wiped out on the sport, and then, you know, they don't have a chance to have any kind of like longevity. And, you know, the thing that I love about ultra running is we do see this beautiful gap of ages between, you know, the teenagers, and then there are dudes who've been running the sport for 40 years. They've had like crazy longevity in the sport, and they're still running into their 70s, which I think is admirable. You know, so I hate to see like kids or anyone really like burn out just because they've pushed their bodies to a point where they can't sustain the sport.
Even James Benet, I know he would get quite a bit of flack back in the day.
Yeah.
For being young, and especially then, I mean, when he was doing it in the 90s, there wasn't anyone else to turn to I think, that was that young doing something like that. 11-year-old doing a 50K or a 12-year-old doing 50 miles or whatever.
I mean, even in the 90s, like ultra running was kind of this.
Yeah, very small, very fringe.
Very niche, yeah.
But I know for a fact that he supposedly planned breaks and didn't run long when he was experiencing a growth spurt. As much as you can tell that, I don't know. You can kind of figure that out. But during a couple key years there, he toned it way back.
Right.
As his bones and everything were growing and developing. And I think we have to just do a little disclaimer, like neither of us are physiologists
we're
or
not doctors.
We're not doctors in any way. So I think there could be some concerns, but I don't know if running long distance, especially if you're training and introducing that stress over time,
right.
and it's done in a way that is, slow and steady, and hiking and running and playing in the outdoors and with your parents and with other people.
Right.
I don't know that it's more damaging than the hikes that I did with a 60-pound pack on,
right.
or high school football or gymnastics.
Where you're practicing 2 to 3 hours.
Yeah, so it's kind of the devil's advocate thing to talk about. But yeah, I would be curious to hear more from some of the listeners. Do you guys have children that are interested in the sport? There's got to be more and more young fans of the sport out there that want to get into it, that are pumped up and motivated. And that's, a healthy, cool thing to see for the sport. It's just a question of, the mind wants to do something. Where's the body at?
Right.
And, thinking about the longevity, I think that's the most important thing. Granted, I personally sometimes sacrifice my longevity in the short term when I want a race finish or a result. I'm like, I don't care if I'm hurt.
Right.
Like, I'm going to give it all. And I think that's important thing to do sometimes. But I think sometimes too, there's times when I take a step back and I don't put in that extra day of training because I want to be doing this for another 13 years, another 20 years, another 30 years.
But I think
as long as I love it.
Yeah, but I think that's also the benefits of, running for a decade and more. You know your body. So you know when to kind of like push and when to kind of hold back a little bit. When you're a kid and you're really excited, and maybe you have like the confidence of, a teenager, like I'm invincible. There's maybe a naivety that comes with getting into a new hobby or getting into a sport or getting into really anything. Do they really understand kind of, maybe they're not thinking about the long term. Maybe they're just thinking, maybe they're, goal driven, just in the here and now, and they're not thinking about, 5 years down the road or 10 years down the road.
So I think we can probably all universally agree that this Hawaii bill is a load of crap.
Well,
come on, people. A marathon is not that far.
It's not. And I think, there's a lot of kids who have completed a marathon. Marathon, prospectively, really, in our perspective, marathon's really not that far. So I don't know. Maybe I'm just like on the wrong side. Like, I'm like, come on, Hawaii. Like, it's not that far. These kids they're running for 3 to 6 hours. What's the difference in them like training constantly in any sport for 2 to 3 hours a day, 7 days a week, whatever it is that they do in high school?
Yeah. There's guys that are putting in 100-mile weeks in hay school.
Right.
Granted,
in cross country,
a lot of them don't run when they get to college. So
yeah,
they're done, let alone getting to the ultramarathon distance. So let's touch base with the 14-year-old that was attempting Rocky Raccoon. So that's Luke Sanchez.
Yeah.
He attempted his first 100 at Javelina this last year, where I was able to meet him. The kid, he's super nice, and he has so much passion for the sport. It's really...
He's really excited.
Really infectious to see, and he's got some lofty goals.
Yes, he does.
It's awesome. I think his goals are way, way bigger than my goals.
They're definitely bigger than my goals. And even like his track record, like, I thought I kind of like just threw myself into the sport. Like I just signed up for a 50 mile and then like did a whole bunch of 50Ks. I'm like, I'm going to do 100. I thought I was actually pretty like throwing myself into the sport. This dude is like taking it, leveling up like no one's business.
Yeah. So I don't know a whole lot about Luke. I briefly met him at the briefing at Javelina, and I think I saw a couple posts about him training. He was like training really hard on a treadmill. He's putting in some big miles. So he's 14 from Florida, and his first result on Ultra Sign Up that I was able to find was he did the Race for the Ages, a fixed time event. It's like a given, I think every youth that gets into ultras, they do it at a fixed time event. And it's just, again, it's so perfect. If any of you have children out there and they are getting into the sport, bring them to a fixed time. We see a lot of it at Across the Years. I'll shout out a couple hours. We have Across the Years. We actually have 2 events this year on the same venue where I ran my first ultra. We have the Hotfoot Hamster and the Jackrabbit Jubilee, 12 hours. Both have 12 hours.
Both have 12-hour and 6-hour events, and then the Hotfoot Hamster is a 24-hour event. But yeah, it's a 500-meter track.
500 meters. So the great thing about that, when I did my first one, I was able to interact with the veterans of the sport. And I'm talking to guys that have done, in 2005, they had already done 20 years of ultras, and they're telling me about their walking strategies and their pacing strategies and how they eat. And it was fascinating to me. And I was just like a sponge soaking up all the information. And you don't get a lot of chance to interact with people on a point-to-point course or something that's out in the mountains. But the fixed time is perfect for something like that. And that's why I really love it. And, my kid, not his first ultra, but his first race was a fixed time event. I think he was technically in the 48 hour. So Luke did 27 miles, and that one's tough because the Race for the Ages, the way it works is you have the amount of, whatever your age is, you have that many hours to run. So he had 14 hours to run, and he did 27 miles, so he did an ultra marathon.
That's awesome.
Technically. And if you're 70 years old, you have 70 hours. So you're going to get a heck of a lot more than 27 miles, most likely. And so after that one, it looks like he attempted the Javelina 100. That was his next race. So he went from what I can see is one 27-mile run, and I don't know his history at all. So if, I'd love to hear more of the story, but straight into trying to complete a 100-mile race.
Correct.
And we don't have any entry requirements for the Javelina 100, which we don't think we should. But so he did not finish that race. I believe did he get to 60 miles, I think?
I believe so, yeah.
But that, and I don't know exactly what went wrong for him there at that race, but it's cool. He's already signed up for this next year. He's going to come back at it, but he wanted some redemption. And he was able to put together a 50-mile run in December and turn it around and complete the Rocky Raccoon 100. Granted, it was, I think, 6 excruciating minutes over the cutoff.
Beyond cutoff.
He said in another podcast that he was sick going into it, but he had probably the most all-star pacer of all time, Kotra Corbett, by his side the last 50 miles. So I think that's a super positive move. You have someone that has so much experience to learn from. It's really great. And but Luke, he's got quite the schedule stacked up the rest of the year. Lake Sonoma 50 mile, Bigfoot 200, and he also just announced he's going after the Colorado Trail FKT.
Which is huge.
These are some pretty lofty things, and I don't know. I don't want to discourage Luke from doing this. I think it's pretty great to have these goals. I just hope that he does it in a healthy way, that his parents are involved, that he's setting himself up for success and hopefully longevity. I'd hate to see him move towards the path of getting a little bit too eager and excited. So I don't want to be a downer, but I definitely want to, to me, it seems like maybe it's a bit much for your first year into ultras. Looking back, we'll probably look back on this in in 10 years and we'll see what happens. Maybe he just crushes
I mean,
it
would be epic, if he gets these goals. I know that I think he announced that he wanted to go out and win the Bigfoot 200.
Yeah, he did say that.
And he is using the FKT, the Colorado, as like major training for it. Which, that would be epic. If this kid can go out and do it, awesome. But at the same time, like, be smart about it, because in ultra running, there's just a lot of things that can go wrong. You can't account for.
Well, and he's definitely growing still.
Yeah.
I mean, he's probably got some formative growth years in the next few years. So,
Yep.
Hopefully he can listen to that and take it one step at a time.
Yeah. It's just the variables in ultra running. You can't control all of them. And it can be really scary going, I mean, at least for me, I'm twice his age, but like, going from a 50K to a 100-mile to a 50-mile to a 200-mile is just, that's a lot.
It's taken me 13 years and like 20 doing 100-mile races and I'm like, I can't even wrap my head around 200 yet. It's like
100
dang.
miles for me is still like, it's daunting. Like
well, and you're stepping up,
dude. But it's scary. Like it's a legit mountain race, and it's scary. I'm totally stoked about it, but I'm really like at the same time like, what am I doing?
It's exciting, and I get it. I see why he's so enthused. I mean,
Yeah.
It's an exciting time in the sport. There's so many amazing performances and runners to look after. So
yeah.
Yeah.
I
So
mean,
I guess we'll see.
And certainly not like he's not the only person that has attempted this. Like Andrew Miller started when he was 14 years old. It's the same age as Luke, but he started with a series of 50Ks and jumped right back up into a 100-mile. And Andrew's 20 now. He's an elite runner. Really exciting to watch, but at the same time, like we don't know kind of maybe the longevity of his career.
And I know that not everyone's in it for longevity either. I know even Jim Walmsley publicly has said, I believe he very much believes that he won't be at the top of the game after a couple of years, but he wants to make his mark and then probably reap the rewards from that. I mean, if he makes his mark and is able to procure sponsorships, he can, set up a lifestyle for himself where, just like Timothy Olson has done, Rob Krar has done, where these guys are representing brands. They're putting on their own camps. Jeff Rose is still putting on ultra running camps, even though I don't think he's run an official ultra in 5-6 years. A lot of listeners may not even know who Jeff Rose is, which is kind of crazy. I'm getting way too old for this. But so yeah, I don't know, this whole conversation about youth and ultras, for me, the conversation has really changed, and it really hit me because I'm a father now. Yeah. And that'll change. I'm not a super overprotective parent with my child. Like I let him go out and play in the dirt and run around and fall down. But also, why do you look at me like that?
No, because I know that there's a but coming. Like, because, you're a father and, you encourage your kid to have an adventure.
I care about him more than anything. And I love him so much.
Of course.
And like, as much as, I don't want my parents stopping me from what I'm doing.
Right.
But yeah, I want to look out for his best interest. And that's what I will do. And dang, it will be so cool if he wants to go run with his dad. But I would encourage him, if he's into the sport, hey, let's go plan out a 50-mile route. And maybe it's not even a race, but it's just me and him doing something. Or maybe we sign up for a race together, and that would be really cool. If he's 14 and he's like, I want to do the Zangray 50, that'd be pretty sweet. Like I would love to run it with him if I can keep up.
But I mean, that's also like kind of the benefit of having an ultra runner as a father then, because you can kind of guide him through it.
Well, and he most likely will be doing this since he's 1.
I know, right.
And he will.
But and that's the thing, like you'll be guiding him through that. There are some of the kids who don't have ultra runners as as parents, I think a lot of kids in this sport do. It's not like some...
Well, and there's a lot of elite guys having
Right.
kids now. Hal Kerner's kids and
Right.
it's
James Bonet's kid.
James Bonet kids and Jerry Campbell's kids, and it's cool. It'll be
There's going to be a generation that have like grown up in the sport.
Well,
and
it's
then,
just like what's happening in the NBA right now. Like,
Right.
You know, like now Shaq's kid and LeBron James's kid, they're all getting to high school age, and they're phenomenal athletes. And it's like, oh shoot, what's
Right.
what's King James's kid gonna do? That's sweet.
Yeah.
Just like James Bonet, he was the prodigy ultra runner child. You know,
Paul, yeah.
Paul, yeah. I mean, it's cool. Yeah, it's super fun. It'd be fun. Like, yeah, it'd be cool if like my kid was racing, James Bonet's kid in, 15 years or whatever, 20 years at Crown King Scramble. They're racing up the hill against each other. That'd be sweet.
At what age do you imagine this happening?
20 years. So 22, and
Okay.
James's kid is older. He's like,
But that's
24.
the thing. Like
I don't know. Maybe
you're giving it a
I said
couple
maybe,
decades.
well, maybe 15. Like I feel like when he's 17, he could get up that hill.
Yeah.
Come
But
on.
what if he says, hey, me and my friend, we want to do the Crown King 50, and they're 10 years old.
Well, James did it at 11, so I'd say wait till you're 11.
Okay, fair enough.
I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I don't have kids, so I don't really have an opinion about, I think if I had kids, I don't know if I would want them to participate in, such a physically exhausting sport. I got into this when I was in my 20s. And my father actually worries about me now in my 30s. He's like, 100 miles is a lot, Jube. Like, maybe like rein it back a little bit.
Protective father.
He is, but and because he's also experienced, he's an ultra runner. He experienced what it is to run 50 miles, 100
Your
miles.
dad's an ultra runner?
He is an ultra runner.
Tell me about this.
You didn't know this?
No.
I mean, he's done, like 50 Ks, 50 miles, like I don't know how many marathons in his lifetime, like 60 some in his...
What's his name?
Dick Paige.
I'm going to ultra sign up right now.
I don't know if he's in ultras. Oh, he's done a couple of our races.
He's 67.
He's 67.
So the Rockin' K Marathon in Kansas, the Lean Horse 50K, the Run Crazy Horse. They have all the horse races there.
All the horse races. There's something about it.
The Elephant Mountain 12K.
Yeah. He did a 100-mile in South Dakota, and he did it in its, I believe, like first year.
So Black Hills?
Something. Yeah, I think it was. He was not impressed. Like, it was really, really hard for him. And
it's 100 miles.
It's 100 miles.
It's really hard.
Yeah. But he said, like, maybe, don't do 100 miles. I mean, he told me, like, don't do anything over a marathon, 10 years ago. Like,
is he going to be at your 100 miler?
I'd like him to be. Yeah. I don't know if he would pace me. I've asked my brother to pace me, which was really, I hope he does. I think that would be rad for my brother
That would be rad.
to pace me.
I'm hoping to be out there because I know there's like 4 of our staff running.
I know.
I'm gonna be the multi-pacer.
Maybe you can pace everybody, and I would,
I'm gonna
that would be.
I'm gonna just pick up the first person that arrives, run to the next aid station, and then wait for the next person to arrive, and then just try and get all the way to the finish line.
I think Sophia and I have kind of like committed to maybe running together, so you could just pace both of us at the same time.
That would be perfect because I think there's
You'd
only
get a
3.
twofer.
There's only 3 legs I think I can technically do without breaking all the laws and the rules of the run bum race.
Yeah. But yeah, like my dad was really protective about me, like, and I'm, in my 30s. So, yeah, I don't know. I would probably be protective of my children as you are, but
yeah, I think I want the best for him.
Yeah,
for sure. But I mean, I already realize like he is his own man already, his own little dude, and he has his life, and I want to be a part of that and help shape it. And I'm excited to see what happens. This is getting sappy now. What beer are we drinking tonight? We had a couple comments about they actually thought you were drinking a wine bottle last time. So
Oh, yeah.
tell us about this drink because you provided them this week.
One, I don't drink really any wine. It's just not my thing. But I do drink a good beer. So I think last time I can't remember what I was drinking honestly. This year or this episode I'm drinking Heady Topper. It's a DIPA. It's a double IPA. Good 8% beer from The Alchemist in Vermont. It's a solid double IPA. The Alchemist, if you do not know that brewery, check those guys out because it's they put out some good stuff.
Yeah, it is good.
I know.
I don't know. I don't want to just keep bringing up examples of people, but yeah, my good bud James Rublick, sometimes goes by Jimmy, but son of the Rublick clan, and even Gavin, he was quite a bit younger than Jimmy. He's getting old now though. Yeah. Damn, he's probably close to 18. These kids grow up. But he got really into the sport around between the ages of 14 and 17. Yeah. Jumped into I think, it looks like one of his first events was the Hotfoot Hamster in 2004. He was 15. Well, he did 7 miles, but he was really into the super tough races. And because of his dad was into that. Like the technical, but he wouldn't train much and just go after it. So he would go after the Hurt 100. He did the 100K there a couple times. Nice. He ended up getting a 100-mile finish at Hurt at age 17. He's finished Old Pueblo, Zane Grey, and I think he started Hard Rock one year, but he wasn't able to finish it.
I ran, I think the first ultra that I finished was the 9 Trails in Santa Barbara. And the first year I did it, I ran with a kid who was 11 years old. His name is Sebastian Salisbury. And he runs all of these ultras with his dad, Michael. And I think he got into the sport when he was like 10 years old. I think he did Santa Barbara when he was 9 years old. That's where he started. And then...
that's a 35-miler? Or did he do a shorter distance?
I think he did the Santa Barbara Marathon, which is still a really tough trail marathon at age 9. That's where he started. And then he did the 9 Trails, which is not an easy 35 mile. It's has over 11,000 feet of gain. It's a legit hard race. And he finished that when he was 10. And then ran it again when he was 11. That's when I ran it. And running alongside this kid, he has such a passion for the sport. He's just super excited to be out on the trails. He's kind of reminds me of a little Killian, where he's just it's so great to be out here. And runs alongside of his dad. I think, right now he's getting faster than his dad, which is kind of cool to see. His dad's okay, go. And he just kind of takes off and is just having a good old time. 11 years old, and I think he hasn't done anything over a 50K. So he's
11 right now.
He's 11 right now. So he started when he was 9. He did some marathons. He did some 50Ks. Hasn't done anything really over that. He's done some fixed time events, and his dad, I think, is maybe interested in bringing him to Javelina this year, which I think would be really cool
for the 100K. For the probably.
100, I think for the 100K,
and that's doable because you have such a great amount of time. You have 29 hours, so you can really break it up. And I mean, my mom ran Javelina 100K one year, and she did that strategy where I think she took a break after 3, and slept a bit, and then got up, and it's kind of like a new day, and went out and finished it.
Nice.
But circling back to James Rublick real quick, he also finished Crown King at age 14, Zane Grey at age 14, and he finished the Bear 100. So he's got a few hundreds under his belt, but he hasn't run.
By age 15, age 14?
15, he finished the Bear 100.
That's crazy awesome.
And age 17, Hurt 100. So between 14 and 17, those are all his results, though. He hasn't run since... in the last 10 years. Oh, wow. His knees were, I think, shot or something. So
I mean, did he go out and like push to win these? Or was he competitive in these
No,
races?
he was just wanting to finish.
Okay.
Yeah, he wasn't. No, he was probably mid pack or backpack.
Gotcha.
But he's a young kid.
Yeah.
He's 14 to 17 years old. It's
I
pretty
mean,
young for,
and
he's going after these really tough events too.
Yeah.
So.
I mean, the hurt, the bear, it's not anything easy by any chance. Like, those are some extreme technical races, and especially.
Oh, the bear can have snow and all kinds of things.
Yeah.
Hurt has humidity, mud, roots. The roots out there are insane.
Yeah.
And it's one of the toughest hundreds. It used to be a hard rock qualifier, but it's crazy. And I don't think he wanted to stop, but I think his body stopped him. And I don't know the tale of Michael Hayden. I don't know what happened. I don't know if he lost interest or if his body rebelled against him.
Right.
That's, I think, it's like, I guess we just don't know. Like, we don't know what it's
doing physiologically.
There's not enough
evidence.
Well, number one, there's not enough kids that are, or youth or whatever.
Yeah.
There's not enough minors that are running ultras, let alone that are participating in some sort of like double blind study,
right,
where we're taking bone scans
there
or
isn't.
something. And on top of that, I don't think we should do that's like testing on humans or something. Like, I don't know if we should do that, but some like anecdotal,
calling up these kids who are in ultra sign up and they're under 18, like, hey, do you mind if we scan your bones?
But
and
there's
then watch
there's
career?
probably some anecdotal evidence that you could do research on. Okay,
but there's no hard data of, when you're starting at an age of 10, 11, 12 years old and you're going for the next, into your 20s, there's no like hard data of what it's done to you physiologically. Like, we know that your bones are still growing until you're about 18 to 20 years old. That can be a huge thing. And that we've seen it like in other sports where they're training extreme, like in gymnastics, there seems to be kind of like a stunted growth within that.
Is there some issues with that? I don't know.
I mean,
personally.
These women who train in gymnastics when they're children, when they're really, really young, until they're, 16, 17, 18 years old. And, in their 20s, they're still under 5 foot. Like, and I don't know if that's just.
But there's got to be some that are fine after all that.
Possibly. But, I don't know if there's data to back it up. It's just like you see this kind of trend of like really very petite women. And maybe that's just, just kind of the sport, like, hey, you're built like a gymnast, so we should put you in the sport. Or if it's really having an effect on their development.
I mean, we should talk about my brother Nathan, because he was actually 15 when he started and ran that first race. He's 15 years old.
Right.
And so we're going to do some anecdotal stuff right now.
Go.
And he ran 46 miles. He's 15 years old.
Mm-hmm. And
then he went to Across the Years a couple months later, did 64 miles. And then his next year, he did 80 in 24 hours. And then 2 years later, 100 miles in 24 hours. So that was his only 100-miler. But man, he has fallen off the scene.
What's the deal, Nathan?
No, I mean, he didn't get into it as much as I did and my brother Nick did. But he comes out mostly for the fixed time events.
Yeah.
And sometimes for some shorter ones. He just did the Elephant Mountain 12K. That was cool.
Yeah.
He got sixth place.
Yeah.
But he
came out for the Nardini ones.
He did
I loved it. Yeah.
Nardini ones in 2017. So he did 38 miles at Hotfoot and he did 35 at Jackrabbit. So he can still run, but but he's just got other focuses now. I like to razz him.
Yeah.
And I'll razz Nick too, because he broke his foot 1 year before Hard Rock.
Oh, really? Meh.
So what else can we dive into here?
Okay, so look at our world and these young kids who are running 100-mile races, and you are not an ultra runner. You are not part of the ultra running community. And like, there are some serious discussion about, I mean, I know that for whatever reason, I remember when Tegan ran the 100K in 2014, and it was 60 miles, and all of a sudden there was some backlash about how it's like bordering on child abuse. Like, you're allowing your kids to put their bodies through like this crazy, extreme, very hard physical activity.
Well, I mean, now being a little bit more removed, it sounds pretty shocking that she was 8 when she did 100K.
Right.
I mean, when you read a headline like that, it's easy to throw some stones for sure.
I know.
But yeah, I don't know.
Like, pull yourself out of our community for a second. And for everybody who is not an ultra runner, who doesn't understand, really what it does to your body, but you can maybe imagine.
But I think you got to look at who it is and what their background is.
Right.
And I think, once you dive deeper into that, it's no more unbelievable than that gymnast that does, a perfect 10 on the balance beam or something like that.
Right.
Or the football star. I don't know where I'm going with this right now.
I don't know where I was going. I just,
yeah, but I do remember
stepping out of it for a second.
There was an article.
I do remember that though. Like,
it's obviously
there was a lot of comments about Tegan. Like, I can't believe you're letting this kid run 60 miles.
There was an article, I think, in Trail Runner or maybe Runner's World about it, and I think it was one of the most shared things on Facebook. Yeah. There was like 1,000 shares, and
like, I was just getting into the sport, and that's something I read.
There was a lot of hate, and I know that her parents had to back her up on it. Yeah. And they know her, and they know what she was capable of, and it I fully believe that didn't cause any long-term damage for her.
Yeah.
The way that she did it was a happy thing. It was a lot of walking.
It was a lot of walking.
It was a slow time, I mean, you're 8.
She came in and she was like, at least on one of the loops, and it was in the middle of the night, like, I saw tarantulas. Like, it was an exciting adventure.
Yeah. And it was done every step of the way with her parents. So that is.
Yeah.
And so that to me seems like a positive thing. And I don't know. I don't know if she had stuck with it and moved up by 10 and was doing 100 and then is 13 maybe now and doing 200 milers. I don't know if that would be different, right. But she would maybe be ready for that. I don't know. And maybe be like a Killian style person, I mean, that's the other thing is, like, look at Killian. Granted, he's probably been hiking 7 miles a day since he was 4, but
right in the mountains above, 14,000
but that can't be underestimated in his growth and development. And it's not to say that you can't put miles in. I think it's just your mentality too, and knowing when to listen to your body and learning that, and watching for those signs too. And that's what I'm going to do as my kid grows up. Is I want to support his goals and dreams, and while still using my experience in life to, maybe help show some perspective for him.
Yeah.
Especially until he's 18 and can make all his own damn decisions. And then he can choose, I guess, how much he wants me in his life.
There you go. I think you'll still have opinions about what he does, but, that's good.
Just a little less say, probably.
That you'll kind of let go when he's 18. That's good. That's cute. Is there a line? Is there a race out there that's so hard that should have an age limit?
Oh, like the Barkley, maybe?
Like the Barkley. I mean, what would you say? Like,
that's up to Laz.
Say, like, if Luke Sanchez does all of this epic shit, and, like, he becomes this, like, prodigy runner, is, if he gets, like, somehow into wanting to compete in the Barkley and he's under 18, I mean, do you think Laz would let him in?
I don't know what Laz will do. I'm going to dodge the question.
Okay. Say Hard Rock then.
Actually, there are quite a few races that they don't allow minors to run.
Yeah.
So Western States, I know, is one. I believe Hard Rock might be one. I think Leadville might even be 21. I think they might have upped it to age 21.
I mean, now we know that like the Hurt Run 100 is out of the question for anybody under 18.
I don't know that bill was passed.
Oh,
it was introduced, but I'm not sure that it was passed. There was a petition going around. I signed it because I'm like, I'm pretty sure that 17-year-olds should be able to run marathons.
Totally.
So, especially in Hawaii, come on, everyone should be allowed to do it.
Yeah, it's a gorgeous place. Run around. It's fun. What's your takeaway besides the fact that, you know, is it just like be cautious with your children, making sure that they have, this is my bad, that they have enough training and that they do, like there's a natural progression in their,
well, I think it's
their passion for the sport.
It's like, yeah, am I giving out parental advice now?
I don't
Is that
know.
what this turning into?
I don't know what this is.
I think it's, yeah, I don't know. I don't know that I want to tell other people how to parent. I think that's the worst thing you can do. But, you know, just my personal experience now that I'm a parent, a guy with 13 years of ultra running experience, I would just, you know, be there along the journey with my kid if they're interested in ultras, and I guess take it one step at a time and see how it goes, especially when you jump to a new distance or a new race difficulty.
Yeah.
I think I would just keep that in mind and keep in mind that at the end of the day, life is, it's short, but it's somewhat long.
Yeah.
And I think if they're super stoked about it, you know, showing a bit of patience, I think can be a good life skill.
Yeah.
And I think it's actually, I was talking to my mom about this last night really briefly, and she reminded me of something that Jamil Coury said to us as a family, because we met him relatively early in our running career. And I wonder if I could even pull up an email, but I'll just kind of say what the gist of it was. Is I think he was kind of discouraging me and especially my younger brothers, because we met him really soon into it all. Maybe it might have been in 2005.
Yeah.
At our first Across the Years. We hosted him for a couple days, and he said, you know, while you're young, focus on your speed and your shorter distances. This is coming from a
prolific runner.
The ultimate, yeah, the greatest ultra runner of all time is telling us, focus on your speed when you're young, you know, cross country track in high school, and build up to the ultra distance. So that was his advice. So maybe we leave you with that, with sage advice from Jamil Coury. But he's not your dad. He's not your daddy. So so I don't know.
I mean, I'll be interested to kind of see, you know, where these kids go. You know, for all of the young kids who are starting out in ultra running, I'm excited to kind of follow their career and to see what they do and where they go. And certainly as kind of time goes on, maybe we discover, you know, kind of the trend of youth in ultras.
Yeah, I'm definitely one for following your passions, and yeah, your passions change over time.
True.
Mine just stays the same though.
I know, that's great.
Ultra
Mine has changed. But
now we're podcasting, so that's a new thing.
I love it. Just moving on up to different things and passions, and
now 100-mile running.
There you go. Yeah.
Are we cheersing?
Cheers.
Is that what we're doing? Cheers.
Great.
Thank you guys for tuning in this week to the show. It's been great having you for this deep dive. Let us know what you think.
Yeah.
Tell us we are completely wrong. Tell us when you agree with us. We try and be just open and honest.
It's just
in
a
this
candid
format.
Yeah, it's a candid conversation that we want to have. And, you know, if you are interested, please leave a comment.
And if you guys have a topic for a future show, please let us know. Do we have something in mind for any upcoming teasers?
Do you?
I don't know if we're too late. It's the end of February right now, but I had an idea for one that was a breakdown of ultra runners of the year, but going beyond that and talking about breaking open Ultra Running magazine.
Yeah.
And looking at all the different statistics. So for you statistical nerds out there, like, looking up who won, they have all these cool stats, and I love it. And I actually, we could talk more about Ultra Running magazine at some point, because I own almost every issue.
I think you do. Don't you own every?
Almost. I think I have 5 or 6 that I'm missing.
I think through this, we might be able to track you down the ones that you're missing. It's like your epic comic collection.
So May 1981 was the first issue. I inherited a decade's worth of this magazine. They're lined up on a bookcase. So we're going to break out. I think we might do that in the next show, unless there's something that comes to mind. Break out the latest edition of Ultra Running magazine that has the 2017 recap.
Okay.
We're gonna go through it and just talk about it. Talk about, hey, which races were the biggest of the year? Who had the most ultra wins? Which women won outright? Who won Ultra Runner of the Year? And do we agree with any of this information, or do we want to scrap it and start over in 2018?
Sure.
I don't know.
Right on.
So thank you guys again. And just a reminder, you can check this podcast out on several different platforms. And
come run the Crown King Scramble.
Come run the Crown King Scramble. If not this year, put it on your bucket list.
Put it on your bucket list.
It used to be one of the biggest premier ultras in the country.
Yeah.
And apparently every child ultra prodigy has run it. So if you're listening, Luke Sanchez,
please come run.
If you listen to this, Luke, contact us, because we'll give you a free entry.
Absolutely.
Either this year or next year.
Email me, jubilee@airviperrunning.com. I will invite you to Crown King Scramble.
It's just sad because you won't be able to go into the bar.
Well,
at the end.
Into
the saloon.
It's not necessarily the saloon, though. It's the courtyard of the saloon, right? And that is
so you'll let him finish, is what you're saying.
Absolutely, in the courtyard, and come and just jam out with the band. And if you want to tell a joke on the microphone, I'll let you do that too. Whatever, come run Crown King. And anybody else who wants to run Crown King, remember TCP 15% off of your registration. Absolutely.
All right, enough plugging, and thank you guys for tuning in. We'll see ya and talk to you in the next episode.
Swing.